Have you ever felt like a story left unfinished? That was Ahil. He carried his dreams like stones in his pockets, waking each day with a quiet ache. He wanted to be a writer, to fill blank pages with words that mattered. But the pages stayed empty, and he felt more alone than ever. The world moved fast. Friends built lives. Ahil stood still, a ghost in his own life. He tried, sitting at his desk for hours, the cursor blinking, mocking him. He'd write, then delete. The desk gathered dust. The dream was locked away. You can ignore the smoke, pretend you don't feel the heat, but it's always there, burning. And the story remained unwritten. Days blurred together, each one a gray copy of the last. Ahil took a job at a bookstore, surrounded by the very things he longed to create. He ran his fingers over book spines, reading names of authors who had made it. Their success was a constant reminder of his own defeat. He stacked books, a caretaker in a museum of other people's victories. He stopped answering friends' calls, ashamed and invisible. Loneliness became his only companion, following him everywhere. He walked through crowds, feeling utterly alone, speaking a language no one understood. One afternoon, a young girl asked her father to read her a book. Ahil watched as the words came alive for her, a world of adventure and hope. For a moment he remembered why he wanted to write. Then the pain returned, sharper than ever. He realized he could no longer build that world. The silence around him grew deeper, and the ache in his heart remained. In the city park, there was a bench overlooking a quiet lake. For Ahil, it was the edge of the world, a sanctuary for his sadness. He'd sit for hours, watching ripples on the water, the sunset painting the sky. The beauty felt distant, like a language he'd forgotten. That evening the air was cold, the sky a bruised purple. He'd received a wedding invitation, a reminder of how far behind he felt. He crumpled the letter, drowning in his own inadequacy. His life felt like a series of wrong turns, a map that led nowhere. The dream of being a writer was now a cruel joke. He was a fraud, a pretender. The world didn't need his words. These thoughts circled like vultures, picking at his self-worth. He felt hollow, empty, a shell of who he hoped to be. He stared at the invitation, feeling bitter envy instead of happiness. He let the paper fall, a small white flag of surrender. He looked at the first star in the sky and whispered, "What's the point?" There was no answer, only the gentle lapping of water against the shore. The night deepened, and Ahil felt more lost than ever. The bench remained, silent witness to his pain. As darkness settled, a voice broke the silence. "Is this seat taken?" An old man stood beside the bench, kind eyes and a worn book in hand. Ahil shook his head, surprised anyone noticed him. The man sat, leaving space, and gazed at the water. The silence was peaceful, not suffocating. After a while, the old man spoke. "It's a beautiful view. The world looks softer at this time." Ahil nodded, unable to speak. The man's presence was calm, grounded, like an old tree. He didn't ask what was wrong or offer platitudes. Instead, he observed, "You look like a man with a heavy story." For the first time in ages, Ahil felt seen, not as a failure, but as someone with a story. A tear escaped down his cheek. He finally whispered, "It's a story I can't seem to write." The admission hung in the air, raw and true. The old man listened, truly listened. Then he asked, "And who told you that a story must be finished to be beautiful?" The question echoed in Ahil's mind. It was simple, but it cracked something open inside him. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was full of possibility. The old man's words lingered, changing everything. Ahil realized he wasn't alone in his struggle. The story didn't have to be finished to matter. Sometimes being seen is the beginning of hope. The question landed in Ahil's mind like a seed. Who said a story must be finished to be beautiful? He'd always believed success meant finishing, reaching the end. He judged himself by the final chapter he couldn't write. The old man's words reframed everything. "We celebrate the mountaintop," he said, "but forget the climb. Every step is part of the journey. You say you failed, but is failure falling down, or refusing to get back up? You've just been resting." Ahil had never thought of it that way. Then came the sentence that changed him. "Your life is not a failed story, it is an unfinished masterpiece." The words were simple, but powerful. An unfinished masterpiece, not a failure, not a dead end. The empty pages were possibility, not defeat. The silence was a pause, not an ending. The dust on his desk was just dust. The twist wasn't in a secret, but in perspective. Ahil felt a gentle ember of hope. He realized he'd been judging his worth by a destination, forgetting the courage it took to start. He was not a failure, he was a work in progress, an artist in the middle of his creation. The journey itself was beautiful, the masterpiece was in the making, and that was enough. The old man stood, patted Ahil's shoulder, and said, "Don't try to finish it all at once, just add one more word." Then he was gone, leaving Ahil with a gift more precious than any name. Ahil sat, the words echoing in his heart, an unfinished masterpiece. At home, he wiped the dust from his desk, a small act, but everything to him. He took out a pen and notebook, writing one sentence about an old man with kind eyes. Some days he wrote a page, some days just a word, some days nothing at all. He was learning to be kind to himself. Each word was a victory. The story was unfolding, one word at a time. Years passed. Ahil didn't become a famous author overnight. There was no miracle, no bestseller. His life was real, not a fairy tale. He kept his job at the bookstore, but now with a different heart. Books became companions, not reminders of failure. He reconnected with friends, went to the wedding, learned to share his struggles. He kept writing, stories, poems, observations. Many were rejected, but rejections no longer crushed him. They were part of the process, part of the climb. One day, a small magazine published his story about a lost young man and a wise old stranger. Holding the magazine, seeing his name in print, felt like holding the world. His life was still a work in progress, and always would be. The beauty was not in the finish line, but in the running, in the courage to show up and add one more word, one more brushstroke. He was no longer haunted by who he was supposed to be. He was learning to love the man he was becoming. Not perfect, but trying. Not a failure, but an unfinished masterpiece. Aren't we all unfinished stories? We all have pages we're proud of, and pages we wish we could erase. But they're all part of our art. The journey is about loving the beautiful, messy, incomplete story of you. The masterpiece is not the finished painting. The masterpiece is the courage to keep painting.
What's something people don't know about stories? They never truly end. There's always a new adventure waiting for you. Just pick your next tale and I'll meet you there. Subscribe to the Story Circle and let me know which story I should tell next in the comments.